This episode is scripted by Newell Fisher with script assistance by John Ruths and is narrated, recorded and edited by Newell Fisher. Hello and welcome to the Watership Down podcast episode 74, in which we will be going through section 15 of the 1978 film, Kehaar. First though, I think I should clarify the differences between the rabbits who first arrive on Watership Down in the book and in the film. This is something I should have covered last week. In the book, the rabbits who first arrive on Watership Down are Hazel, Fiver, Pipkin, Hawkbit, Dandelion, Blackberry, Buckthorn, Speedwell, Acorn, Bigwig, Silver and Strawberry. 12 rabbits in total. In the film, they are Hazel, Fiver, Pipkin, Dandelion, Blackberry, Bigwig, Silver and Holly. 8 rabbits in total. The differences are those rabbits who do not appear in the 1978 film, Hawkbit, Buckthorn, Speedwell, Acorn and Strawberry from the Warren of the Snares, as well as the addition of Holly, who has already joined the group when they first arrive in the film. On another matter, it is strange how the progress of this podcast seems to accidentally echo the book at times. John Ruths, a member of the US military, took over the main scripting role for a time a few months ago due to my very challenging personal circumstances, just as the nature of the story in the book became its most military in character. And then, 2 weeks ago, and purely by chance, I put the 1978 film on trial just as we reached the equivalent part in the book that features the story of the trial of El Kehaar, a chapter that does not appear in the 1978 film at all. This was not by design. These coincidences probably have no special significance, but they are fun to note. So then, let's meet a seagull. Section 15. Kehaar. This section covers from 42 minutes 20 to 46 minutes 50, and the equivalent chapter from the book is chapter 23, Kehaar. In the book, Silver and Bigwig come across Kehaar hidden in the grass and, having already seen him, then run away at the sound of his cry, much to their embarrassment. Here it is just Bigwig, sniffing around his new downland home at Silflay, who is surprised suddenly by Kehaar at his loudest in one of the film's funniest moments. Bigwig the clown has his second outing since the red hoodoodoo on the road. After an initial clicking sound that alerts him to something strange nearby, his reaction to Kehaar's cry is hilarious to look at frame by frame if you get the chance. After his initial raucous cry and angry-looking face, Kehaar's strength rapidly fails him and he collapses. This is a seagull clearly in trouble. Hazel, Pipkin and Dandelion join Bigwig and Hazel cautiously approaches. Another angry cry from Kehaar, who then tries unsuccessfully to eat a beetle. He is clearly hungry. Hazel has been thinking, as is his habit, and his entire plan for using other animals to help them, so clearly laid out in the book, is seemingly arrived at on the instant. He asks Bigwig if he can get some worms, with a predictable result from Bigwig. Kehaar speaks for the first time, with Zero Mostel delivering his excellent voice characterisation as Kehaar says he will be able to get up plenty soon. He seems to feel the need to say this in self-defence. The character of Kehaar was apparently based on a member of the Norwegian resistance who Richard Adams knew during the Second World War. To my English ears, here he sounds more German than anything, with perhaps a hint of something more Slavic. Hazel explains to Bigwig that he is hurt and that they should help him. We, like Bigwig, still do not understand why. He then approaches Kehaar to say they want to help him, which gets the same angry, urine-based response he gets in the book. Kehaar follows this up with a calmer and reasonable question as to why they would help him. The next shot is of Blackberry, who was not present before as far as we could see, but the previous shot that showed Dandelion was in a far less detailed style than this shot of him, and the next one of Pipkin, both of which have a very detailed and pleasing style. I strongly suspect a continuity error due to a change of artist. Blackberry asks Kehaar what happened to him. We see Pipkin's reaction as Kehaar reveals he was attacked by the cat at the farm. He comments on how they know her, a reference to being chased out of the farm recently. Kehaar stands tall, or tries to, before collapsing again. Hazel says in simple English, that is presumably meant to represent the lingua franca of all animals, that they will take him to their burrow. Kehaar tells him to go away. He says his wing is injured, but he can walk just fine, before he collapses again. Pathetically, he asks how far it is to their burrow. Bigwig asks where he comes from, and the reply is the same as in the book, the Pig Water. I'm interested to know how such deliberately bad English is rendered in translations of Watership down into other languages. Pig Water means big water, or the sea, in case English is your second language and this isn't clear. In which case, what does Kehaar call it in your first language? He struggles up on recalling his home environment and repeats the phrase a couple of times, at the same time making the sound indicating crashing waves that is the origin of his name. To the rabbits, of course, this would mean nothing, and Kehaar's nostalgic wing dance as he recalls his home is a perfect example of what a film can do that a book would not do so well. There is none of this in the book, after he says where he comes from, and the business of feeding him is far more prominent. The rabbits who are with Kehaar, once again, seem to include Dandelion rather than Blackberry. And so, as Kehaar's clarinet-based theme plays more loudly, which we have heard lightly in the background since Blackberry appeared in close-up, he recovers from his reverie and walks with the rabbits in the direction of the warren. The shot dissolves to a downward pan of the beech tree with Kehaar sitting at the entrance of a burrow. The music is a calm and contented version of Kehaar's theme, of which more later. The colour palette is bright. There is an optimistic feel. We get a closer shot of Kehaar as he snatches one of a pair of butterflies out of the air and gulps it down. Pipkin and Dandelion emerge from another hole, seemingly playing chase, as an equally calm version of one of the other clarinet themes begins. Having rounded the tree, they pass Hazel, Bigwig and Blackberry, who are resting contentedly by a small patch of chalk, as is characteristic of Downland. And now Hazel breaks the atmosphere as he points out that there is still a problem. They have no does. As in the book, this seems to come as a genuine surprise, as Hazel points it out after Bigwig and Blackberry both express how happy they are about how things have turned out. Now that they are out of survival mode, their attention can turn to such obvious matters. As Richard Adams points out in the book, pioneering humans have also been known to forget the importance of women in building communities. In a close-up, it is left to poor Bigwig to be the focus of this lack of realisation. As soon as Hazel points out that no does equals no future for the new warren, Fiver pokes his head up from behind the chalk and makes the comment on why Hazel made an expedition to the farm that I mentioned briefly in the comparison with the book in episode 70. This confirms that Hazel was already thinking about this problem before they had even arrived on the down, a rare example of him showing more effective leadership in the film than in the book, where no action is taken to address the doe issue until after their arrival. Blackberry asks whether they will have to set off again. There is something about the combination of his voice and the animation of this line that I find one of the most effective examples of a talking rabbit in the whole film for some reason. It just seems so casual, as if an intelligent rabbit asking such a question were the most natural thing in the world. Bigwig adds that they haven't come across any other rabbits since they arrived. And this is where Hazel's big idea is suddenly made clear. They will get Kehaar to search for them. As he says this, they all look towards him as we see a shot of Kehaar again. In the book, there is time to go into the intricacies of how Kehaar is persuaded to help them in the quest for does. In particular, Bigwig's role is impressive as he takes time to get to know him and his Pig Water. There it takes more time for our heroes and Kehaar to both trust each other and work cooperatively. The tension created by Hazel's policy of befriending anyone whom you can, which he first tries with a mouse, is one of the most interesting aspects of this section of the book. However, here there simply isn't time for that, so we get a heavily truncated version that involves Bigwig taking on his role as the clown again. This seems a bit unfair on poor Bigwig, but it does make for one of the funniest scenes in the film. Much of Kehaar's dialogue from the book was abandoned for new lines in the film, and that is all the more so here. The filmmakers seemed aware that Kehaar's potential in a visual medium meant they should play up his comic potential by taking his eccentricity even further than in the book, and with Zero Mostel's voice characterisation, this seems to have been the right decision, given the time constraints. Here I am very much with the revisionist perspective. We are treated to a shot of Kehaar's backside from inside the burrow he seems to spend his time at the entrance of. He is clearly unhappy and is talking to himself about how discontented he is being there, and how it seems he would rather be back in his natural environment making new seagulls, something he has obviously realised these rabbits are not doing the equivalent of. As he mumbles to himself about mates and eggs, Bigwig appears, apparently trying to get past him. In the book, Kehaar has a bay off to the side of the burrow entrance, but not here. His dance left and right as he tries to see a way past coordinates with both the movements of Kehaar and the stilted phrases with which he makes his feelings clear. And then, just as Kehaar is riled by a seeming memory of egg robbers, Bigwig picks his moment and backs up. His clumsy exit at speed right underneath Kehaar is one of the funniest moments in the film, and one in which it celebrates its form most joyfully when compared with the book. Kehaar is outraged by this indignity, and in his outrage he makes his feelings clear. Strangely enough, sitting right outside the hole already are Silver, Dandelion, Fiver, Hazel, Blackberry and Pipkin. They don't arrive, it seems, at the sound of Kehaar losing his temper. So was his old egg monologue some kind of lesson he was giving them due to their seeming inability to grasp that they need to be producing more rabbits? Or is this just animated shorthand for the tableau to be set up for this hilarious scene? In any case, in his temper, Kehaar refers to them all as stupid bunnies. This is, as far as I am aware, the only time that word for rabbits is used in the whole Watership Down universe, and I remember hearing the whole cinema auditorium burst out laughing at it in 1978. It is a word that utterly subverts the seriousness with which Watership Down expects us to treat talking, intelligent rabbits, and as such it is a wonderful moment of comic relief. But Kehaar is not finished. He lambasts them for having no mates or does, and screams into the burrow the classic line that fans of this film can hear on seeing a picture of this scene. "Where are mates? Where are cheeks?" Then Bigwig is treated to a few wing slaps as Kehaar points out that there will be plenty trouble if they do not address this issue. At this point, Bigwig turns to Hazel, and we hear a voice say, "It's working, Hazel." I always assumed this was Bigwig talking due to the slightly knowing look he gives Hazel, but actually I think it is Blackberry speaking quietly from behind him. What actually is working is not made clear, unlike in the book. Was Bigwig's undignified barging past Kehaar part of some sophisticated plan of psychological warfare? Or is this just a reference to something else that has been happening? In any case, Kehaar is now on board. Can we surmise that Bigwig has played some role in this? If he has said it was working, we could, but all we can say from what we see here is that he was aware of the plan. It's a bit of a shame how Bigwig's skills of persuasion and use of a hearts and minds strategy, such as the British Army was known to use in the post-war era from time to time, is seemingly played down at this point in the film. Bigwig is far more than a tough clown. Kehaar, brilliantly, has come up with Hazel's exact plan. His wing is now better, and he will fly for them to find them mates. By now his temper has subsided, and that last word mates is delivered in an almost affectionate way. Much the same as in the book, Hazel and Bigwig, probably with advice from Blackberry here, have clearly somewhat played Kehaar, but not in an egregious way. It is just made more obvious here due to lack of time. Hazel's response is to effusively praise Kehaar for his genius, followed by a blunt question as to when he would be able to fly. This is mercenary Hazel made obvious. He is using Kehaar for his own ends, and his impatience briefly shows. Fortunately, Kehaar has only one response to any question regarding when he will be able to fly. So now we enter one of the film's feel-good scenes, Kehaar's takeoff. This is a pure addition to the book and is played purely for laughs. Kehaar boasts and prepares to fly again in the same way a human pilot might show off about an aircraft they had built themselves. In reality, I doubt a bird would show off about flying any more than we would about walking or being able to pick up objects. But then again, in reality, birds don't talk to rabbits. After treating them to his pre-takeoff checks and an emotive reminder of all the manoeuvres he is capable of, we are treated to the messy reality of a Kehaar takeoff. A bit haphazard, but somehow it works. He chooses to run straight at the rabbits, and in particular Pipkin, as he accelerates. Having just taken off, he briefly stalls. We see the reaction of the rabbits as they watch him, both joyful and shocked as he seems to fall before recovering. At the same time, Kehaar's theme plays. This happy-sounding woodwind-led track was on the B-side of the original Bright Eyes single that I bought in 1978. It captures the joyous aspect of a flying Kehaar perfectly. As it plays, we are treated to a prolonged shot of a happy Kehaar against a blue sky. The music reaches a satisfying conclusion. Kehaar's search for mates has begun. Comparison with the book. Compared to the book, Kehaar has more of an obvious comic relief role here, which is done quite effectively. He comes off ever so slightly as a big talker here and there, but not too much. The necessity to move the plot forward dictates that a process of persuasion that would have painted Kehaar in a more serious light is abandoned. Instead, we are distracted from that process with wonderful comic relief. What is preserved about Kehaar from the book? Well, John Ruths lists his foreign exoticness, toughness, ability to get things done, his observation skills, faithfulness, and his intelligence. Most of how we see Kehaar as a character in the book is preserved. The movie Kehaar is just a bit more self-important. And is his foreignness played for laughs? Yes, probably, but not in a gratuitous way. He was expertly voiced by Zero Mostel, I think the only American in the cast, who died in late 1977, but was around long enough to complete his work on this film. It is sad he never saw it released. Next time, the mood darkens, and Hazel comes to a decision.